So welcome everyone. I'm delighted to have Mr. Amrish Narayan, who's the Manager Productivity and Innovation at Fiji National University's National Training and Productivity Center. He manages a team responsible for the design and delivery of training programs and consultancy services to the Fijian private and public sector organizations to improve productivity and quality. He has over 5 years of experience in the manufacturing sector and 10 years of experience as a workforce trainer and consultant delivering in-house training programs, professional development courses, and leading ISO 9001 certification projects. Amrish has completed a postgraduate diploma of commerce, a Bachelor of Science, a diploma of project management, and a certificate in training and assessment. In this presentation, Amrish will be sharing the opportunities and challenges of providing workforce training through the online mode faced in the last 2 years of restrictions in Fiji. Welcome, Amrish, and we look forward to your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, on behalf of FNU and also on behalf of the National Training and Productivity Center, I must convey my sincere gratitude in appreciation to the Pacific Online Learning and Teaching Network group. I think most importantly, Dr. Jalal and Swaran for giving me the opportunity to come and make the presentation. I actually don't mind, presenting this to 4 or 5 people, but probably, the recorded session can be shared across, to the network. But I actually am happy and delighted, to make this presentation. As the manager at the National Training and Productivity Center, as Dr. Jalal mentioned, we have a team of trainers. So I'll be just basically, going through the National Training and Productivity Center, giving a brief overview of what we do. Then about my department, more specifically, I spend a bit of time talking about what we do in the department. It's quite a mix of, teaching, training, and consultancy. And then, of course, we'll talk about the opportunities and the challenges of doing this. Now, in my team, most of us are, if I can safely say, non-IT professionals. So we have been teaching mostly in the traditional medium, the mode, which is of course face-to-face. So we had a small group of people teaching using the online platform, but the bigger group has always taught face-to-face, especially short courses. So in 2020 and 2021, we went through a rapid change in the mode of delivery of courses. So that is what I would want to dwell on, for some time and give as much examples as possible to elaborate some of the opportunities and challenges we face as a training provider, challenges we face as a trainer, as a consultant, as well as challenges that our students face, our participants face, in a training environment. So that's an overview of what I'm going to present. And of course, at the end of the presentation, I will have a session for question and answers. Normally, if it was face-to-face, I would have asked you to interrupt me at any point in time. But I think for the purpose of this presentation, we'll reserve a specific time at the end of my presentation, so you can note some questions or issues if you have any, and then you can comment or ask questions at the end. So the National Training and Productivity Center focuses, on 2 key activities. Of course, the name says it, training and productivity. So when we say training programs, these are mostly short course training programs, rapid skills development programs. So we have programs that range from 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. If I can safely say, probably 80% plus of these courses are short courses, 1 to 5 day courses. Then some of those are packaged modular programs, which can run for 1 month or 2 months. And again, this is for rapid skills development. So when we say skills, skills in all the areas, we can look at technical skills like IT is an example, or trade skills like carpentry, joinery, electrical, building, and all of those, automotive, mechanical engineering, welding, fabrication, all of those. And at the same time, leadership, communication, management skills, all the other skills that we need in a workforce. So we deliver training programs with quite a lot, lot in terms of variety in the offerings that we have. The center also focuses on productivity promotion. So the center is actually established as a national productivity organization for Fiji. So that is our designated role, and we report, our reporting line for that is with our Ministry of Productivity. So we promote productivity in the country, so to raise productivity of employers and the workforce of the people and in the various sectors. And then we offer trade testing facilities. So if we have people who do not have formal education, but they have acquired skills through experience. So if somebody has become a good technician by learning and observing his father or somebody else in a workshop, they can come and attend our test and get that skills recognized. And Dr. Jalal, I think most of these people then fly off to New Zealand or Australia. But it is a recognized scheme. Then, of course, we have our popular apprenticeship scheme, where employers actually take people on contract, they train them, and then we give them the recognition. So we provide the formal education from the university, and the practical aspects the employer has the duty to provide. And of course, our department also focuses on community-based, non-formal education. So here we talk about a range of programs that deal at community level. So especially Fiji is quite diverse. So we have a lot of, what we say, maritime, small islands, and people spread across 300 plus islands. So these, to make them adapt to the changing environment, to have them improve their sustainability and their livelihoods, we have community-based non-formal education. Say small engine repairs, boat repairs, ship repairs, sewing, many of these skills-based training are offered, in the community mode, where we go to the islands or the maritime areas. NTPC is spread across 9 centers across Fiji. I'm pointing this out specifically because it has a strong connection to some of the challenges we face, and I'll discuss that in the later part of my presentation. So that's a brief overview about NTPC and what we do. Some average annual highlights, again, within the disclaimer of sharing this for the purpose of giving a background of what we do. As average annual highlight, I've just taken annual average figures for the last 3 to 5 years. So we offer 2,000 plus courses, and we have an average number of 15,000 participants, over 800 trade test participants, over 300 apprentices in a year, about 5 national conferences and conventions. This is the one that has been hardly hit in 2020 and 2021, because we could not gather 200, 300 people, 400 people in a convention center due to the restrictions. Then we also offer regional workshops and training spread across the Asia Pacific region through our alliance with the Asian Productivity Organization. And of course, one of our premier events is the Fiji Business Excellence Awards, which is part of the productivity promotions program. So quite a range and truly a dual sector role that we have in the region. Some annual statistics about NTPC to give some more light on what we do. I'm going to focus now more specifically about my department and what we do in the department. Again, it's can be a bit different from what the major activities of NTPC. So we focus specifically on productivity, quality, and innovation. That's our department structure. This is what we have. Quite a flat structure we have. We have our director for NTPC. Of course, he reports to the Pro Vice Chancellor and the Vice Chancellor. Then we've got 10 departments in the center. And one of them is our department, Productivity and Innovation. So we've got 2 senior instructors. Senior instructors are the same ranking in university as senior lecturers. We've got 2 instructors, 3 assistant instructors, and 2 support staff, a program officer and information officer. And then we've got about 20 plus part-time instructors spread across Fiji because of our outreach and the number of centers we have. And this is also a bit challenging for us because we have very few full-time staff, a large number of part-time staff, and quality-wise, tracking performance, etc., becomes challenging as a trainer, especially in a supervisory role as a trainer or managing a training department. Sorry. Now, this is how we operate. We go out to the industry, we identify their needs. Just today, we launched our industry and community discussion forum report. Earlier this morning, I think around 10 a.m., we launched a report. We did pre-second wave, that was just before the April of this year. We went around the industry, talking to the industry representatives on what their training needs are, what the expectations are, from NTPC and from FNU. So we collected them in a report, which is available on our website. So we collect that information and then we use it for planning our programs. So what we will do is, with the 2021 feedback, we are going to plan better our 2022 programs. So we go out, we discuss, we conduct visits, and we obtain feedback from the industry. Our major activities, in the department is we offer public programs. So we set specific dates, just like this webinar is, open. There's a specific fixed date, and then you invite, members to come and, participate. So similarly, we schedule public programs, but more popular programs that we do is in-house courses. So say, for example, if an industry or is an employer is facing a challenge, just last week, there was a compliance issue in terms of occupational health and safety with one of the construction sites. So they called us a week back and they said, on this specific 3 days, can you offer a OHS course for 3 days to the site supervisors? So we had to do a rapid assessment of their training need, discuss, the content, the design, and the delivery mode. And then within a week's time, we were able to deliver. I think the training got concluded on Saturday. So it started on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And just this morning, I received an email, said them sending a reminder, can we get our certificates now? Because it's a compliance training. So in-house courses is a popular program that we deliver for the employers. So they get a group of 15 to 20 people, and then we specifically tailor-make some of the programs, learning outcomes, with them, discuss, get the approval, and deliver. Now, the other activity we provide is consultancy service. So just like I said, we do in-house training programs. So if we go and do some training and we find out that there are gaps in policies or standard operating procedures or forms, reports, or systems and processes, there are gaps in an organization. So we do up a scope very quickly, and then we provide assistance for them to meet that gap. And this is again a charge service. It's kind of a premium service that we offer. And it's quite badly hit because at the moment, I think for the last 2 years, we've not been able to conduct visits more rapidly, as we should have. Then, of course, the third one is we deliver TAFE qualification courses. I think over 2 decades, we've been partners with TAFE New South Wales. And we've been delivering courses in IT, in leadership and management, in HR, human resource management, in work health and safety. And the picture you can see is some of our delighted graduates. Now, the interesting thing about these graduates you see in the picture is those are all from the same workforce. So we actually took that advanced diploma of leadership and management program into a resort. At the time it was operating, Outrigger, Fiji. So, which is somewhere close to Singatoka, if you're familiar with our west region. So in Singatoka, we have Outrigger, Fiji. So we delivered the training on site, a 1.5 year training on site. That was three years back, I guess, in 2016, 2017. So our short courses, we focus in in about 6 to 7 different disciplines or areas, and you've got assigned trainers, assigned resource speakers and guest speakers for each of these disciplines: accounting, financial management, environment, food safety, industrial systems engineering, OHS, quality management, and project management. One interesting finding in our community discussion forum report that I talked about earlier on was this year we noted the most inquired course of NTPC was on occupational health and safety, and we can understand the reasons, why. Although a lot of industries were shut down, but there were a lot of concerns about safety, spread of the virus, and the new business protocols that come in. So the OHS legislation, the act was amended. So to comply and demonstrate compliance to the authorities, a lot of training awareness that was needed. Major consultancy areas we have is on productivity improvement, like TQM, OHS, quality cycles, Kaizen, business process engineering, and of course on system certification. Currently, we are dealing with one government statutory body, and we are implementing ISO 9001 quality management systems, on their site. So a lot of activities is happening online. So we've been able to set up a SharePoint, and then we are sharing documents, creating processes, systems, so that they're able to actually meet the requirements of the standard. And we're grateful to our counterpart in New Zealand, I think Veritas, who will be later this year or probably next year will be certifying the organization. So we work in collaboration and partnership to deliver that service. And of course, our national event, like I said, it's been very much affected. Fiji OHS conference was one of our popular events. The picture you can see is about 3 years back at the Pearl Resort. Again, this is pre-COVID pictures, so everybody is nicely posing for the camera. Next, I'll talk about the online courses that we delivered this year. So in 2021, with a big change. We delivered about 22 short courses, far behind our target of about 100 courses that we should have delivered. So probably around 22% only of the courses that we delivered, with 563 participants. With the learning management system, out of 7 of my trainers, only 3 were familiar with Moodle in terms of teacher access. So the rest had to very quickly adapt. And I'll discuss that a bit more in detail later in the challenges section. So we used Moodle as a learning management system from FNU. Good thing is we didn't have to build anything from scratch. This was already an established, tested system for the university. We just had to, our trainers just had to adapt themselves to the learning platform. And of course, the video conference facility we use with Zoom, supported by Viber chat groups, email groups, and at times we also had to rely on just phone calls, especially those participants who kind of moved to outer islands, because a number of them are government workers. So when we have government workers, sometimes they are redeployed on missions, on work, especially COVID mitigation phases, etc. So they lost contact or network issues came in. This is a picture of the Zoom session for one of the classes which we had. This was a 2-day workshop that we offered to a group of about 25, 26 participants. You will notice, interestingly, this course was hosted on Zoom, was not to be planned to be hosted on Zoom, because the course itself was on digital literacy. So we had a lot of people who had very basic, none to basic knowledge on IT. And we spent about 1.5 to 2 months just planning, getting everybody aware, installing Zoom on their mobile phones, computers, and whatever smart gadgets that they had to bring them on par, and then getting them familiar, and then for them to start. So one of our learning outcomes, which was to address video conferencing, etc. usage, we just managed to deal with that just by bringing people up on the Zoom platform. So we didn't actually plan this, but the crisis actually, made us, take the turn. So that's a picture of the Zoom class, hosted by one of our trainers. The class was on digital literacy. This is the Moodle activity that we monitor for these students. I'm sorry if you know some of the students. I'm sure you wouldn't share any information, but some of them, didn't access Moodle at all. Then we had to call them up. We had to do a lot of chasing around. Some of them actually could not even, log in, or they had a lot of issues. So the first few weeks or few months, especially, was quite challenging for the whole team. And especially if you're teaching a course on digital literacy, and straight away you're just not in a classroom, you're using the digital medium to teach. This is a chat group of the same class that we had on digital literacy. A number of reminders, notes, links, Zoom meeting links, etc. were exchanged on this platform. I'm now going to talk about the opportunities and challenges that online teaching and learning has presented to us. For the training providers, especially institutions like NTPC or other universities or centers that provide short courses, normally what happens is, I'll just throw a background of what we do. A 2-day short course that we say normally runs is 6 hours per day. So we have 6 hours of rapid delivery in a day. We start a class at around 8:30 and we finish around 4:30. So in 6 hours we deliver 1 day's class in a normal classroom, face-to-face. And a 2 days is like consecutive 2 days. So it can be a Thursday, Friday, or a Monday, Tuesday. So what we do is, we start around 8:30 and then we continuously and rapidly deliver the class in a face-to-face medium. What happened in 2021 and part of 2020 was, we had to actually stop all face-to-face classes. And the great opportunity that it presented to us was, we could then break the class into smaller components or into smaller, if I can say, sessions. So what we did was, for a start, we converted a 2-day class, we spread it over a month. So I'll just use that case to go through the opportunities that it presented to us. In terms of outreach, in a normal public offering, we kind of offer courses in different towns and cities. When we brought the class on the Zoom platform, we could deliver the class like in the same month, in the same group. So our people from Lambasa, from Nandi, from Singatoka, from Suva, from everywhere, even from as far as Lebuka, Ovalau, in the Maritime Islands, as long as they had access to the internet, we could deliver the class in the same group with the same resources at the same time. So we had bigger classes. Some of the classes were about 40, 45 in terms of numbers. Whereas in the traditional mode, we would have like taught 10 people in Suva, then another 4 or 5 in Nandi or Singatoka, and ultimately we would have cancelled the Lambasa one because it's a small town and there would have been less than 5 people, and then the flight costs and all that we add up, we would have decided to cancel the class, and then ended up getting the industry complaint that you guys schedule the class and then cancel it. So we kind of, whatever we scheduled, we were able to deliver because we had the ability to reach out to different locations. And at the same time, the accessibility was there. The challenge was, of course, in terms of the internet, availability of the internet in rural and maritime areas. But most of the towns and cities had good internet connection. So the students were able to access our learning materials, the notes and whatever we had on the learning platforms. It also provided us with a great deal of flexibility. We didn't have to plan a 2 full days course at once. We delivered 2-hour sessions in a day, and then we had 2 sessions per week. So we delivered only 4 hours in 1 week, and then we had 4 weeks, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. So that gave us more time to learn more about our learners. who are they, where they are from. And we had more time. If you look at the last point that I made, is about improved learner completion rates. That's an interesting finding, especially to trainers. Some of us may believe that in the online platform, when we deliver online courses, the completion rates may be different from what we do when it's face-to-face. So the interesting finding that we had was the learner completion rates actually improved for short courses, for us. And the reason is, again, the flexibility that we provided. So a 2-day course was broken down and delivered over a month's time. So the participants had more time. They could actually complete the assessments. They had questions and issues. They had increased teacher and student time. Because in 2 days, if you missed the opportunity to ask a question, the course would have been, would have ended in a traditional delivery, in a face-to-face delivery. But a month's time gives you a great deal of flexibility. If you don't understand something, you're shy to ask in front of the camera, you can make a call to your lecturer, to your teacher, and then get clarification and complete your assessments. And at the same time, it gave the trainers, especially learning opportunity to design new materials. Almost every course that we delivered, we just needed to redesign it, redo the way we present, because we could not use just PowerPoint slides alone, because there was no face-to-face classes. So we have to combine a lot of resources and then put it together and pull it together and ensure that it is understood easily by our learners. And it gave a lot of our trainers exposure to new tools and techniques. One, for example, is Zoom platform. So initially it was quite a weird experience for many of us, talking in front of the camera, recording our sessions, etc. But I think over time everybody got used to that. So we learned a lot of new tools and techniques. And as I said, they gave us a lot of increased student-teacher time. And we could address more specific issues for our students, especially because about 100% of our students, I can safely say, are working students. So when they go back to their organizations, they obviously face some challenges. So what they learn, they try to apply, and they call you back again to get clarification. So those are the opportunities that we had as trainers and as training providers. Now, in terms of our learners, I think most of them, felt that they could learn safely because there was a pandemic, there was a crisis around us. Safety was, quite important, for them. So they didn't want to go out, attend a class or move around. So safety, I think, was quite an opportunity, for them, especially in this pandemic. And again, like I said, it gave them a great deal of flexibility. So even if they couldn't attend a Zoom session, they attended the recorded version of the session and still completed most of their work, the assignments. And when I say working students, they normally prefer to study in the night. So Dr. Jalal, when you ask the question, what's the preferred time? If it was for my students, I would say 7 to 8 p.m. is a good time for especially working people, because they can get home by 6, catch up some dinner and tea and whatever, just refresh, and by 7 they can join the class. But if you were teaching on an online mode to our kind of audience. It gives people a lot of convenience in terms of the learners. They have the choice of studying, on the sofa or in the bed or wherever they are, outside in their porch or by the sea or whatever they want to. Then learners can also choose the providers, especially if you look at the Pacific region. And if we get stuck with face-to-face course offerings, so like if you're in Fiji, you only have 3 universities to choose from. FNU, of course, USP, and University of Fiji. I'm sure there may be very fewer choices in some of the other member countries in the region. But if you are learning online, you've got the whole world to choose from. So you can choose whether you want to attend a global training on LinkedIn or any other platform that you find accessible, and of course that gives you a range of choices, and at the same time cost considerations, fees, etc. And of course, you don't have to commute, make your way, save your time. You don't have to get ready. Some of our students, of course, they have to get ready for the camera, but they don't really need to spend so much time in doing all those activities. So in 5 minutes, you can just sit in front of the camera and go on with the class. Now, the challenges that we face, I had a very long list, so I had to trim it down. Otherwise, this presentation will look a bit different and people will feel online learning is not something for them. But in the context of NTPC and especially in Fiji, the first point I put there is technology. Part of it can be my own experience with technology, but I think in Fiji especially, internet service providers have to live up to the expectations, especially because when we talk about delivering courses 7 to 8 p.m., we know for internet service provider, that's a peak time for data traffic. So a lot of calls get dropped, connection issues do arise in terms of internet accessibility. Now, we also had challenges in terms of the hardware aspects. Not all our learners will have laptops and the smart gadgets that we expect. Good number of our learners had very basic smartphones. So they had to actually manage if they could not access Zoom or they could not access certain features on Zoom through their smartphones. We just have to live by that and contact them by phone or through email groups and also through the Viber chat groups. And when we talk about the software aspects, of course, there are a lot of challenges, because the learner characteristics is very varied and dispersed, like diverse, if you're in a university setting and you're teaching people who just left year 13 and entered the university, the learners are pretty much uniform, consistent, and homogeneous. But in our context, we have some people who may have only year 9, year 10 knowledge, and some of them may be sitting in the class with PhDs or MBAs or master's degrees. Some of them may not have ever used a laptop or a computer, and some of them may be IT graduates sitting in the class. So everybody is, is quite different, and that's a challenge that trainers especially face. Probably an hour or two before I called Swaran, just before this training, and I asked her, what sort of people are attending this particular webinar, just to get a feel of it. And when she said, okay, at least all of them will be trainers or training teachers. So I said, okay, that's fairly homogeneous group, so I need not worry much about that. But for us, it's very diverse. The age group, at the same time, you have very tech-savvy young learners, or we can say the millennials, and then we have the other group. I don't want to say old people. I'm not an ageist, but we have differences, in different learners and their ability to adapt to technology quickly. Now, the other challenge, of course, is distractions that we have. I know that we've got family. Not everybody has the luxury to have a separate office at home or a separate study station at home. There are a lot of other distractions, your phones, your family, your kids, children, the community, even my location. And actually, I've just sealed off my windows and doors of this room that I'm in, this is my study room, because my neighbor is doing his fence. So just before the presentation started, I just went and asked them, very politely, if they can stop using the grinder on some of those noisy machines, because I had a presentation. So they actually agreed. So there can be distractions, and it can be very challenging. There can be distractions in terms of difficult learners as well, because some of the students may become difficult students, and I think as teachers we know, we've experienced this, and we know how to handle those cases. I've put 3 question marks under practicals, because we have offered, not my department, but NTPC has offered training programs for electricians, for welders, for plumbers, The theory classes have been offered face-to-face. Now, the thing is, you can't be a welder unless you've done some practical. So as much as possible, you go and look at a video or, of the work being conducted, but you have to, actually get hold of the hardware, go through the practical. So we've been able to, where the employers were actually supportive, we've been able to actually partner with the employers to ask them if the students could go to their workplace, do the practical and make a video of it, and then upload it on Moodle, and then we could assess those practicals. But again, we have training programs like, cookery and baking, etc., where we still need some time, probably when we do reopen, to offer those practicals, as well as IT courses. The other thing is, people start missing this, social interaction, because we are all human beings, and we want to have that physical connection, that physical touch, that social connection with people. So it takes a bit of time, when we move from social to the cyberspace, and not everybody gets used to that in the same length of time. So the good thing is, when there is a crisis like COVID, people adapt very quickly to the change, because they know there's no other choice. I'm sure if it was not for COVID, we would be probably another 2 or 3 years behind in terms of implementing online mode for short courses. So that has kind of presented itself as an opportunity. I wouldn't say it is a blessing anyway, but is an opportunity for people to actually fast track the ability to adapt to technology. Then the motivation behind training for trainers as well as learners. Sometimes, they can miss the deadlines, the assignments, because they know there's nobody watching, and then they can lose the motivation. Now, one thing my trainers actually complained a lot about is, them being called by students after 10 p.m., 11 p.m., some even in the early hours of the morning. And especially if you have a chat feature like Viber chat, people can send a message at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And then the next morning they would write a long email that they were not responded to. So it's kind of make things 24/7, and then the fatigue aspect comes in, and you kind of have to juggle between your life, your personal time, your family time, and work. So as much as possible, we try to not replicate the 8 to 5 kind of approach when we work from home and deliver courses online. So all of my trainers are operating from home. So there is no 8 to 5 approach. So we know, and there are preferences too. Some people have an 8 to 5 approach, some don't. So some of them are very active in the morning, a couple of them, and then some of them are active around 10, 11, 12. And at the same time, the learners as well. So we just have to actually go with it. We do implement some guidelines, some codes of practices to avoid those challenges. But we still face that issue, especially when we are at home and we want to also enjoy our social life. Then the professional development aspect, especially of trainers, and at the same time of learners. What we say is learning to teach online, or even learning to learn online. And I'm grateful to the university, especially our team from the Center of Flexible Learning, who do a lot of awareness sessions and programs with learners on how to learn online, because it's quite different from a face-to-face session. So I think all in all, there may be other challenges that other training providers or trainers may have faced, but these are the major ones that we have faced. And again, I may have said, we are not the best case or best practice scenario yet in terms of online learning, but I think over the 6 or 7 months of 2021 that we experienced, we almost learn every new things in every course we deliver. But the good thing is we do evaluate, we go through our weaknesses, and we try and implement improvements after every delivery of the course that we have. So those are the challenges that we faced as a training provider when we do deliver courses on the online mode. I'll end my presentation there, but I am open to questions or issues or contributions even, from I think Swaran, Pritika, and Praneeth, and Dr. Jalal, you're there. So if you want to ask, there's only